It's Tuesday on Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Happy to be back for another day. Hope you guys are having a great day out there today. Lots to get to in a little bit, but we're going to start right away with Vikings over the Bears. 30-12 on Monday Night Football. Final score very satisfying. The way they got there, maybe not as satisfying. It wasn't like a dominant win. It wasn't a particularly efficient win, but it also never really felt like it was in doubt, nor did it feel like they were, taking the Bears lightly, right? I felt like the effort, the focus was there from the beginning. It's just that the Vikings are a good but imperfect team. They're a flawed team in some regards, and those flaws showed up in this game in terms of letting the Bears run early. I thought the Bears kind of went away from the run. They could have had more success there if they had stuck with it. Um, Caleb Williams, like the Bears just made a lot of Bears plays that really turned this game. I mean, Bears are driving on the second time they get the ball. First time the Vikings stop them on a 4th and short, kind of a weird decision, weird play call where they try to run wide, don't make it. I think they could have had more success, maybe just off tackle or something simple. The Vikings get a field goal out of that stop. Bears come down, move the ball the second time, get into field goal range again, and then wind up strip sack of Caleb Williams on a third down rush. I think it was Jonathan Grenard that got him that time. So, players making plays on big downs, right? Like fourth down. I think I read the Vikings are the best fourth down defense in the NFL, and that's huge. I mean, you don't get much bigger than fourth downs, like having success, especially stopping teams in those kind of critical moments, not even just like end of game desperation moments, like those kind of 50-50 judgment calls where a team is like, hey, we feel like it's worth it to go for it here. And then they stop them, flips field position, flips momentum. They're very good, have been very good all season in those spots. And I think that's the thing that's probably the most impressive about the Vikings from start to finish this season is how good they've been in those most meaningful downs, the weighty downs, like Kevin O'Connell likes to say. They've been very good in those situations, and that fourth down stat is certainly an indicator of that. Yeah, I know they gave up a fourth down touchdown pass kind of in garbage time later. Vikings essentially ran out the clock or close to it after that, got a field goal, kind of put the game away at 30-12. It was already pretty much put away, but they extended that drive with a couple first downs. So yeah, that fourth down the Bears converted. I wasn't really too worried about that. It was the more meaningful ones that they stopped them on earlier in the game that really turned this thing. Wasn't the greatest Sam Darnold game. He was fine. He missed a couple throws. Justin Jefferson had a pretty significant drop, although he made some pretty good catches as well. 24 of 40 for Darnold kind of expresses that he just wasn't quite as accurate as he has been. He missed a couple windows where Jefferson was open over the middle. Had to throw the ball away sometimes. Like I thought he played a smart game, but probably not his best game. And there was the interception. That was a fourth down play, just kind of like, hey, the play got blown up. Throw it up for grabs just in case you can make a miracle play and extend the drive. So I wasn't as worried about that. He put a couple up for grabs that could have been picked that weren't picked. That was a little bit lucky. He's gotten away with some throws like that. But overall, I was okay with Sam Darnold's game. It was certainly not his best game, not his worst game. Did enough for them to win. I was probably more impressed with the running game. Nothing came necessarily easy, but 29 carries for 114 yards. I think they would take that most weeks. Aaron Jones, 18 for 86. Cam Akers, 10 for 24, but that was more when the Bears knew they were going to run, so that was a little bit tougher sledding. Both of them with short touchdown runs. Seems like they may have found something in the run game with, I think it was Johnny Munt they put in short motion off to the right and have him kind of dive forward, extra blocker, momentum off right tackle. I don't know if they can keep running that play over and over again if teams are going to start defending it a certain way. Maybe there's some play action off of it that they can run in subsequent games, but they found success with that play twice. Once with Aaron Jones was a walk-in, once with Cam Akers, who had to struggle a little bit more to get it in, but did get it in. This has been a bad team on short yardage goal line running situations, so to see them find a play where they have success, that is a big deal because you got to cash in when you're down there. And the Bears obviously didn't, right? That was another momentum play. Vikings are up 13-0 early in the second half. Bears have a chance to get back in it, though. It's like it's only 13-0, even though the Bears haven't done anything on offense really, or haven't been able to finish drives, extend drives. They get it down to the 1. They bring in an eligible, a tackle eligible basically to play fullback. He forgets to report. They were in the end zone easily, but it gets called back 5 yards. They get another play where they get another penalty. All of a sudden, they're backed up. They don't get it in the end zone. They have to kick a field goal. 13-3 is a lot different than 13-7. 13-7 starts to make you think, okay, Bears have momentum. Vikings just took momentum right back at that point. Went and got a touchdown, I believe, on the very next drive. 20-3 at that point. So there you go. That was kind of the ball game right there. Bears got another field goal later, again, where they kind of messed around, couldn't get it into the end zone. Couldn't really get it in the end zone until it was too late. I don't know if if the Vikings learned from the last game against Caleb Williams, but they sure seemed like they had a better plan for him to contain him. He still got away a few times, didn't really scramble a whole lot, only had 4 carries for 3 yards, but he did kind of get away to throw passes, but didn't really do the damage that he did that last time out with his shiftiness. Didn't make plays in broken off scripted stuff nearly as much. Held him to 18 of 31, 191 and a touchdown. But again, that costly fumble. His total QBR was only 25.3. I mean, the Vikings really did a nice job containing him. He did not play well. That's a tough one for the Bears because it seemed like he was ascending. And then these last couple of weeks against the 49ers and the Vikings, he has not been the same quarterback that he looked like he was kind of in the middle of the season when the coordinator change. You had the kind of the change in style. Seems like teams are starting to figure that shift out. So now what you have is the Vikings at, of course, 12-2, tied for the division lead with the Lions, tied for the conference lead with the Lions and the Eagles. And the way it looks right now, if you do all the tiebreaker math, if the Vikings win out, they're going to win the division because Detroit's on their schedule. If they beat Seattle, Green Bay, and Detroit in the next 3 weeks, and those are all teams that are in playoff position right now or, likely to be in the playoffs, Green Bay and Detroit. Green Bay almost certainly, Detroit certainly going to be in the playoffs, Seattle still in the mix for a wild card or the division title. It's going to be tough, but if they win all 3 of those games, they will win the division, and they will almost certainly also win the NFC and get that number 1 seed. Now, there's still a strength of victory is what it's going to come down to if both them and Philadelphia win out. They'll both be 15-2. They'll both have same record, same conference record, same record against common opponents. It would come down to strength of victory, and I think the Vikings have a tougher schedule right now. So right now, I think they're up like 6 or 7 games in the strength of victory column. Now, of course, that can change, right? Because strength of victory is determined by the winning percentages of the teams you've beaten. If some of those teams pull upsets later in the season, that can shift. But right now, it's looking like the Vikings definitely have a pretty significant upper hand in the tiebreaker against the Eagles. And of course, the Vikings and Lions, that would be a different story. But the Vikings having that opportunity to have that number 1 seed, to win out, to probably have that number 1 seed is huge, right? Like that's not to say they're going to get it. Like they definitely have the hardest schedule of those 3 remaining teams in terms of locking up that division title and that number 1 seed, because Detroit has Chicago and the 49ers outside of the Vikings. And the 49ers, you could say, maybe give them a game playing for pride. They're pretty much out of the playoff race, but a better team than probably their record indicates, having a disappointing season. I think the Eagles have some pretty easy games. They play the Cowboys, the Giants. Their schedule is not all that tough. Green Bay probably not a factor in the division race. They're 2 games back of both those teams. They've got some tiebreaker problems because of division losses. They've lost to Detroit twice. They've already lost to the Vikings once. So I think unless some total collapse happens or there's a tie somewhere along the way, I think the Packers are pretty much locked into being a wild card, likely the 6th seed, although that's still to be determined based on how things finish up. The Packers certainly could jump the Vikings or the Lions, depending on what happens these last few weeks. But the long story short is the Vikings are in much better position now going into these last 3 games. They know that if they win out, now they're not in control of winning, but they are in control of, if they win, if those outcomes happen, they will be the NFC North winner and almost certainly the number 1 seed. And remember, there's only one bye. There's only one bye now. It used to be the 1 and the 2 got a bye. Now it's just 1 because they went to the 7-team format, and 1 gets a bye, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5 in the first round. So it's a big deal, a much bigger deal now to get that 1 seed than it used to be. The 2 seed used to have a lot more meaning. You get that bye, then you get a home game the next round. You win one home game, you're in the NFC title game if you were the 2 seed before. Now you got to win a couple of times to get there, risk injury, risk upset, things like that. So this is a big deal. It's going to be a tough road no matter what. Winning these games won't be easy. The Seahawks, like Royce and I talked about on Monday, have some problems right now, especially depending on Geno Smith's health. He couldn't finish that game against the Packers with a leg injury. We'll see if he's good to go for the Vikings game. If he can't, Sam Howell did not look good against Green Bay, but that game again is in Seattle. That will be a challenge no matter what. Then they got to play the Packers after that. And then that Week 18 game in Detroit. Again, that Packers game is here. Vikings already beat the Packers once earlier this season. Jordan Love is kind of coming off an injury, caught them at a good time, had a huge first half, and then hung on in that second half to win that game. So we'll see where it all winds up at. Man, they are in such better position right now than they were at the start of the week. The 1 seed in a bye is still not a long shot, but it is a far less than 50-50 proposition because of their schedule, because the Lions are still a good team, even if their defense is in shambles right now. But the opportunity, the window is open for the Vikings right now in a way that it just was not open before.